Some guy walked in and was like, "Are you Zach Beebe?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I want you to go to dinner with me tomorrow, and I have a proposition for you." And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, all right, what the fuck?
That's a weird way to put it.
Zach, you got your start selling merch in college.
In a weird way. Yeah. So what was weird is I went to the University of Toledo, and like I've always, I guess, had that hustle mentality. So like I was going for business, marketing, and management, and like I'm a true believer in like you got to like get out there and do it, you know, not like just to someone who probably hasn't even, you know, actually made it in business. Not all professors are terrible, but yeah, man. I mean, I went into the mall and got a job at freaking Buckle, and I never even wore their stuff. So they would always yell at me and shit. But this is like 12 years ago. But the only reason I took the Buckle job is because it was the only, only company in the mall that would pay you like a commission. So I knew everyone on campus. So they would all come to me anyway. Right. And I would always like just keep it 100 with them. And then, yeah, I grew that and I was killing it. And they offered me like a regional position. And then some dude walked in, literally no shit. Some guy walked in and was like, "Are you Zach Beebe?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I want you to go to dinner with me tomorrow, and I have a proposition for you." And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, all right, what the fuck?
That's a weird way to put it.
But I actually went home and I looked up his name and realized that he was part of like the largest campus housing, industry. So they had the live here, eat here, and they wanted to create a shop here. So yeah, he gave me $150,000 when I was like 20 or something. I created my first, business concept. It was called NEX Clothing Co. And then put a barber in it and a freaking tattooist. And I was bringing Wiz, Mac, MGK. I mean, all these people that at them that we were nobody. Right. So it was a cool and wild time for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Adam.
nuts.
Adam, we might need to let Steven and Zach just have a room and talk about these early days with selling shirts and just leave right now.
Yeah, but I got to learn a shit ton about like the merch industry, right? And sourcing and buying and, you know, all the different that. So yeah, it was definitely a great learning.
I never had anyone take me to dinner and give me $150,000. Mark answered my email and wrote us a check. That was pretty cool, but not as cool as that. Wait, so you were a college student, someone gave you $150,000 and said, "Go start this lifestyle company"?
Yeah, I mean, he essentially said, "Look, we know you enjoy fashion, you have a big following here on campus," because I was using Facebook very differently. Like I said, I mean, this was 12 years ago. So I was using it more for at University of Toledo, like Greek life's really big there, and I never wanted to be in a fucking frat or whatever, just because that's not wasn't my style. But these guys were like myself, so I was using Facebook and that to build these like big groups, and essentially started. All girls were free to come to our parties, and then I charged all guys, and then we were making like a shit ton of money, and then so we kind of rolled it. But yeah, I dropped out of college and decided I was just gonna, kind of go into business. And the best advice I ever got, literally, I went to all 6 of my professors. All 5 told me I should not leave college. I have to stay in college. Dude, the 6th, he was the only class I probably went to. He was my business class, one of my business classes. He goes, "Let me tell you something, Zach." He's like, "This university is going to be here to take your money, whether you fail in 2 weeks or in 20 years. And he goes, "I also smoke a lot of pot." And I was like, all right, cool. And then, yeah, man, on this journey.
And here we are today. And
That's amazing.
now you're negotiating free cars for athletes.
Yeah. I mean, a little more than that, but yeah, it's definitely
at The Ohio State. So how is it like being like a Toledo, going to Toledo and then hustling for Ohio State? Is that are you totally good with that?
Oh, hell yeah, man. I mean, look, Toledo was like a byway, right? It was just like what you were supposed to do after college, right? I played football in college or in high school. So it was like, oh, go to University of Toledo. But I was born and raised here in Columbus, Ohio. It's our Bible here, dude. Ohio State football.
Yeah.
That's what we don't have professional teams. Columbus, Ohio is our bread and butter. So yeah, I don't really care about that. We just whooped their ass this year. So that was pretty, yeah. But yeah, and I mean, Ohio State and this kind of pays the bills. So,
Steven, you wanna do the kickoff to the episode? That was a pretty killer intro.
Oh yeah, we're back for another episode with the NIL show. We got Zach. Is it Beebe? Beebe.
Yeah.
Zach Beebe. What nationality are you, Zach?
Man, I don't know. I'm like a mess. Like Italian, Greek. My mom was like Cherokee. I don't know, dude. I'm just all kinds of shit.
You're just here. You're just here. Doing
That's a cool last name, Beebe. And you started this company, NIL Management. You're obviously a pretty well-established entrepreneur, whether in the barbershop industry, merch industry, hangover cure industry. Pretty crazy track record of what you've done at Ohio State. How did you end up here in NIL? Talk us through that.
To be totally honest, before NIL, right, you couldn't do any of the things that we now can do. So I've always been really close to the players. And when we weren't on tour and doing all that kind of stuff with my music artists and all that, I really created like a safe haven for these guys where I didn't care what you did on the field or how cool you were on the court or whatever. You want to come over to my house, we grill, we watch Sunday football, Monday Night Football. And I actually, Haskell Garrett, we would always kind of like mess around. Dude, wouldn't it be nuts? Like, because it blew my mind that these kids could never capitalize on their likeness. Like, it absolutely blew my mind because that's all I did for these big music artists and all this stuff. But me and Haskell were joking, and then literally I got tipped off about the NIL bill, and it was during COVID, right? So I wasn't on tour, because all the music venues shut down, all that shit, and literally I was sitting on my steps and it was like 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, dude, I'm going to buy nilmanagement.com. And I bought and then essentially what I did is leveraged all my relationships that I had, with these players and really protect them. Like I didn't really build this to be super lucrative. It just kind of took on a mind of its own. But yeah, I mean, I truly created the business to benefit my friends that I knew were going to be taken advantage of. So
let's go back a little bit. You talked about, managing artists while they were on tour, et cetera. So this is your representation agency, OTR Management, right? That you were doing before NIL came about. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So on the Rise Management, I created, so I was put in the great position of when I built NEX Clothing Co. and I was bringing all these big artists. And at that time, they weren't big, but I knew that they were rising. I've always kind of had an ear for it. I got the opportunity when we sold this, hangover cure and got these like crazy investors, which schools like Cheryl Kruger, Cheryl's Cookies. And we had like Wexner on our board and Roger Blackwell. And I'm like 22 at this point. Like we raised like 1.2 million in like a half hour. I was like, what the hell is going on here? But got to learn a bunch from that. And then I leveraged those relationships and had a guy, Max Zoss, reach out to me. He's like, hey man, he goes, I own what's called the Verge Campus Tour and I want to verge 2 different genres. So then I found myself on tour it was Kendrick Lamar and Steve Aoki. And then it was Cruella and Logic. And then I was with Chance the Rapper, right? And this whole time, like we were on these tour buses and a lot of people saw that as like a party. But for me, it's like, no, I want to learn the back end to this, right? So Chance's manager, Pat, that's why my name on Instagram is actually Zach the Manager. He was Pat the Manager, kind of took me under his wing and like I soaked up a shit ton of knowledge from him. And then it was so weird, dude. I got home and G-Eazy's first stadium tour was kicking off and I did all the hiring and running of this big music venue here called Flanagan's. Like we bring, Luke Combs and like all these guys. And hired a guy named Carter Winter, and he came up to me and was like, hey man, I need a manager. And I'm like, what do you do? Like, I don't know what.
To manage what?
Yeah. Well, because at this point, I didn't really know. I had no clue. And then literally after digging into it, I mean, he had this amazing voice. And literally I was at a crossroads where it's like in the music industry, the real way where you make money is like you find a diamond in the rough and then you manage this, person. So literally decided to put everything into Carter. And then, dude, within a couple of weeks with the help of, Chance's manager and stuff, we got signed to CAA, right? The largest talent agency. And then I brokered a deal with Jay-Z and Rock Nation. So he was the first country artist signed to that. And we kind of grew him from literally whatever to very high. And then COVID hit, of course.
How at 22 years old did you raise $1.2 million for a hangover cure company? That's what I'm curious about.
It was crazy. So after I sold the clothing companies, I built one in Toledo, then BG, sold it. I went into corporate America because the original investor was like, hey man, like you can come sit on the board and negotiate these deals. So I was like, all right, cool. Right. And I'm like young as shit, making really, really good money. And then, dude, I'll never forget one day I walked out and I was just like on this balcony and I was like, I fucking hate this. I was like, I don't like, I'm furthering someone else's dream. Right. I just own my own shit. So, dude, out of the blue, my friend Terry Blue called me and he's like, hey man, I'm in Seoul, South Korea. And I have this extract called Avenia Dulcis. And in South Korea, all your business handlings are done at the bar, right? And they take it like offensively if you don't take the shots. So you're drinking soju, you're just lit. And they tell you, hey, drink this and you won't feel bad in the morning. What's crazy is it's proven that the Havenia Dulcis basically breaks down and metabolizes the alcohol at such a high rate, you either piss it out or, it just dissolves. So anyway, Terry goes, hey man, I need to raise like 150 grand to start this company. And I'm like, in my head, I just did this, right? And I'm like, 150 grand is not going to be enough. And it was like a bridge loan and it was just bullshit. So and this is like a theme in my life, like, my bank account's full of relationships and experiences. I don't give a shit about money, man. Like literally, time is the only true currency, right? So I told Terry, I'm going to leverage my relationships. And then I get a sit down from Cheryl Kruger, Cheryl's Cookies, who sold to 1-800-Flowers. And she goes, you have a half hour to be at the New Albany Country. You have a half hour of my time at New Albany Country Club. And dude, I'm telling you, we went in there and we're like these young kids, right, at this way too nice place, and we all have like tap stuff, so we have like button ups and shit. And we sit down and I'll never forget, she asked us, we do our whole pitch and she asked us like, how much capital are you trying to raise? And I looked at her and I said 1.5 million. And Terry looked like a ghost, dude. It looked like he was gonna like pass out because that was not the plan. But I knew the worth. I knew how much we were gonna, burn through being vertically integrated, all this stuff. And after the negotiations, we got, great. And it was like we walked out. It was like the Breakfast Club when you walk out of the, the ending scene. You walk out, but like, couldn't do. But like, dude,
did that just happen?
Each other like, what the fuck? So of course. Yeah, so we went to the nicest fucking steakhouse and literally had like a $3,000 tab, and we didn't even have like anything signed yet.
That's amazing, Zach. Yeah. Zach, you're clearly a relationship guy. Can make relationships very easily, connections. But when it comes to the business sense, how did you learn that, especially at such a young age?
To be honest, I had two amazing parents, and my father was, an entrepreneur, and I mean. Since my youngest of years, he was always up at 6 a.m. in a suit and tie. He was a consultant, and that's, in reality, that's what I own is, a consulting company. And my dad was always giving me these gems, right? And unfortunately, my dad had cancer and he passed away when I was a senior in high school. And I got to learn so much. So that's really a true testament. Like my heroes weren't like athletes or actors. It was like my dad. He was the shit, right? And then my mom was kind of counterbalanced that too, and she worked very hard. And I got to learn amazing stuff from her, and it was crazy. She passed away like 3 years after that, like hit by a drunk driver. So it's just been like weird stuff. But when it comes to that business, I believe you're almost kind of born with it, but you got to kind of like, just like a diamond, dude, you just got to keep kind of brushing it off and learn as much as possible. And I'm always around people smarter than me. Like all the time. And
that's
I don't know.
That's super rad.
But yeah, probably my dad.
It's just crazy how much like you got thrown in the deep end at such a young age, figured it out, and then you just keep leveraging and leveraging and leveraging it. Like what's next? You guys worked some of the big things that you've done at the Ohio State is with like the foundation, which is a collective at Ohio State. How did you get tied in with them? Collectives are, a pretty big deal, especially at the Ohio State. How did you get roped into that? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the deal. When I created NIL Management, I didn't want to create a monopoly, but in reality, if you're doing the best and creating the best content and bringing the best deals, and you're doing the most car deals, right, the flashy stuff that guys that
That's
are
the headlines.
Right. So essentially, we had signed every major athlete at Ohio State. So in reality, they're contractually obligated to us. It is a non-exclusive one page. The reason why we make it non-exclusive is because, look, we want them to win. So if another agency brings $100,000 deal, $10,000 deal, all we ask is my business partner, Ed Brown. He's amazing. He's our GC. So he's been an attorney for 14 years. So all we ask is that he can look over those contracts. So that way there's no conflict of interest or breach of contract. And we don't even take a percent from that, right? But yeah, when it came to the collectives, dude, basically at the end of the day, it's like, they realize you can't just try to poach or go after these guys. They're going to come to me and they want me to negotiate the best deal possible for them, right? And their parents believe in us and them. So Brian Schottenstein had approached me, through the foundation, and he said, Zach, I have a great deal. How do we work this out? And we negotiated that entire deal on the back end and got it to where it needed to be with Brian and his uncle. And now we've created a really cool campaign with DSW Value City and what's the other one? DSW Value City and American Eagle. Yeah.
That's awesome. I just want to draw attention to something in particular. You had this approach with NIL management and you said it like non-exclusivity. That's not what we're looking for, right? Because if we're going to bring the most amount of value to our clients, we don't have to worry about that. But the flip side of that is like the last thing you want to do is pigeonhole somebody into missing out on an opportunity in this short window that they have.
Yeah.
And I just, I commend you guys for that. I think that's so cool. We take a very similar approach here at Campus Inc. with the NIL store. And, we say a lot, it's almost like a dirty word in NIL, right? And you're seeing that happen is these companies and organizations that are like forcing exclusive deals, closing doors off are getting people backing out of it and saying, well, forget it. We don't want any part of that. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's really cool that you've been able to kind of show this model of, we're non-exclusive, but look what we're doing. We're doing cars. We're doing, big national brands, DSW, American Eagle. That's such a rad approach. I appreciate that.
No, thank you.
We get asked that all the time, Adam, when we're on our pitches with investors. Like, is this merch deal exclusive? Like, no, I can't take away the right to a kid to do a Nike deal. Like,
yeah.
Right. But what we can do is give them the best possible experience. Of course. Right. Mm-hmm. And, that success is rent and the rent is due every day. And the day we stop paying the rent, we don't earn their business anymore. It's like a subscription, right? Like if you stop watching Netflix, you don't like it anymore, you can cancel it, right? It's not like you're tied to some crazy contract or something like that. But some of the deals that you pulled off were pretty flashy, right? Like you negotiated for 4 OSU players totaling almost $550,000, 6 guys to get cars. Do you get the player first and you're like, okay, I'm going to find this for you? Or do you have these connections in the industry and you're like, I'm going to start piecing these together? What's your thought process when you're doing this all?
Yeah, so that goes both ways, right? One, what we like to do is now we're in a great position where there's just too many people wanting to join the team that like per bandwidth, I want to make every one of them feel like they're the only one. You know what I mean? So with that being said, when we bring them in, we kind of have like a checklist, right? Like, who are you? What do you like? Is there any kind of weird things do you like? Do you like to build model cars, or are you into parrots? Do you know what I mean?
We ask kids their tattoos because we want to put it on their merch. Like, tattoos are important to them. Dude, yeah, dude. We ask. So that's another thing, man. We ask like about their tattoos, like what's that mean to you? Because I truly want to figure them out. Are you a vegetarian? Right? Then this big steak deal is not going to work. Just trust us, dude. But because like the type of money that we're getting pitched when you're 18, 19 years old and you have a $50,000 whatever deal,
and it may not align with who you are, what we say to them is, at the end of the day, we work for you, but I'm going to give you my opinion. You can take it, you can leave it, but I'm always going to put you in the best position to succeed, right? And I can come to it in a very different manner than they're used to, right? With the suit, the tie, all that bullshit. And I just keep it 100. And every time they've listened to me, thankfully, it's always worked out for the best. And they're true to themselves, and it just works out way better. But yeah, sometimes I'll see like, an Emeka Ibuka or a Marvin Harrison or something like that and be like, oh, he likes this, this, this. I can start piecing something together and then go to them with a pitch. But it just, it works kind of both ways.
And the obvious advantage with Ohio State is the brand is incredible.
Yeah.
It's a massive, massive brand, nationally recognized. And businesses are, I'm sure, Zach, you can speak to this, businesses are clamoring to be associated with Ohio State, and especially Ohio State football, basketball. In terms of your onboarding process with athletes, are you being selective with the athletes that you bring on? Are you accepting everyone? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, so it's gotten hard, right? Because let's be honest, like it's not like I'm some wizard like taking a school that's a Pac-12. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we have the Ohio State University. We have the largest viewership. We're, like I said, there's no other, major sports teams here. So we're not fighting. Plus, we're one of the biggest test markets. So we have the most, Fortune 100 and 500 companies here, et cetera. So yeah, all these companies want to work with us. But it's got to the point where one of my biggest faults is like I'm loyal to a fault and I want to like make everything work for everyone. But it's gotten to the point where, one, we are having to grow, which is great. And having Ohio State in the beginning, man, they were like, who is this dude? Like, I mean, they were on.
For sure.
But we stayed to the course. We kept everything compliant. We kept everyone eligible. Yep. We didn't infringe on trademarks and we did it right. And we stayed in our own lane, right? And now, they've been super supportive. They've wrapped their arms around NIL, and we've done it very classy and very tastefully. So here's another thing is a lot of people don't understand NIL. Like fans are like, say they won the game. Well, instead of doing that love sack deal, you should have been practicing or something. What they don't get, a lot of these deals, we're shooting the content in the summer, right? So then unloading all this shit. It's not like they're out here shooting these commercials during,
halftime at a game. Yeah. It's like there's separate time allotted for this.
Yeah,
people are crazy, man.
Zach, what's your relationship? Because you definitely, there's a little edge to you, right? Like this isn't and to some coaches, they're like, this is a distraction. We're here to win games. We also want to keep our players and parents happy. What's your relationship like with like Coach Day, with the athletic department and NIL directors? What is that like?
Yeah, it's great, honestly. Coach Day and his staff are focused on winning a national championship, right? Like that's what it is. So essentially we're an extension of who they are off the field. And that's why we wanted to keep things very strict. Like I don't bullshit, right? When I sit down with my guy, I don't need the cool guys. I don't need the cool girls. You can go figure it out yourself. So we kind of take that approach off the field. And when it comes to compliance and OSU, we talk to them weekly, if not every other day, just to make sure everything's, going smoothly. But yeah, there are still some rules that you have to stay within. But I think if you saw with like South Carolina and ESM, like there's some different deals that are popping up. And there was another one that got announced, I think, a couple days ago. But we're growing a very strong relationship. So
go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to ask, with all the different businesses that you've been part of, is this the most like buttoned up you've had to be with stuff? Working with schools?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was a good thing. And I think like in life, and I've said this before, it's always good to know what you're not good at and then put the correct people around you. So bringing on Ed Brown and giving him the percentage that I did, a lot of people are always like, oh, you want to keep all your percentage. You want to do this. Look, I'd rather own a small piece of a big pie, baby. Like for real.
So Zach, what are you bad at? Because I haven't figured it out yet. Tell us about what you're bad at.
Honestly, I'm bad at, like I said, wanting to be everything for everyone, right? And sometimes like that's great. Sometimes you can't be 500 different places, right?
Sure.
And also, like I said, when it comes to contracts and all that long form stuff, that's why I brought in Ed, and he literally is a freaking saint when it comes to all that.
So you know, obviously you're a for-profit business, right? Like you're not, this isn't just volunteer. How often do you have to say no to athletes? Like, are you at the point where you're like, unfortunately, there's not much we can do for you? Like, your following isn't that good. What's that conversation like? It's not a fun conversation to have, but what is that like?
Yeah. Look, we just got to keep it 100 with them. You know what I mean? Honesty is the best way to go about it. But I love to give tips and tricks and not just kind of burn it out. The also problem is when you type in NIL or NIL management, our SEO ranking is so high that literally our emails from, every major university, we get so many inbound, also DMs and everything. Parents calling, my cell phone number got out, so now I'm getting like calls. But the thing is I'll take them, and then I'll be on the phone for like 45 minutes, like, because I don't want to just be like, look, this isn't a good fit, and there's no money to be made. Right?
Do you send athletes to like, so like say, you know, you get a parent that hits you up and they're so excited about their 3-star freshman who's never stepped on the court, whatever. Will you send them to Open Doors and be like, look, go on there, find some little stuff, do your thing? Or like, what do you try to do for, because look, let's just put it out there. The large majority of athletes aren't going to have these massive, we're going to get a cart deals. Right. What do you try to do to help them out? You're going to give them tips and tricks, but like, do you try to find them solutions? What do you do to them?
So here's the deal. Like with Open Doors, they have a deal with Ohio State, right? So my thing is like, look, I win because we have boots on the ground, right? You call me at 3 a.m. and you have a blown out tire. You need your TV hung. Dude, this is all your parents are in town. They love Jamaican jerk, and I know the Jamaican jerk spot, so I get them in. Like, there's so much more beyond this than what people see, but when it comes to helping them beyond that initial call, I'll literally say, what are you looking for? And if I myself, and normally I do in this city, have the connection, whether it be a clean eats deal for meal prep or this or that, and they're not my client, I will always make the connection. But what I don't like is we have these athletes that I think their entitlement is a little higher than where it needs to be. And when you're coming at me, there's a professional way to come at me, right? It's not, hey, yo, give me a deal. Hey, yo, I'm looking for the But I tell them that. I'm like, I would love to help you, but I'm just going to give you a little tip on how to introduce yourself. And I'll give them a way to introduce themselves the correct way, right?
Nice.
So because, dude, I would want the same thing if I was in their shoes. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
can we talk about? Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, Stephen and Adam say all the time, this is just as much an educational process. They're in school, they are learning, and that's part of it.
This is their first hustle. I mean, no differently than Zach and myself selling merch in college, right? This is their first hustle, and they'll remember the lessons they learned from their first hustle for sure. Okay, can we talk about parents for a second, Zach?
Yeah.
Give us some wisdom.
You're laughing already.
Is it more fun for you to work straight with the athlete, or do you enjoy working with the parents? Do you just work with both?
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So when we sit them down, we always want to figure out who's their inner circle, right?
Okay.
A lot of them have different makeups. Some have mom, some have dad, some have both, some have an uncle or a grandparent that took them in. We always want everybody to be in the know. But at the end of the day, we are working for your son or daughter. That is our client. We create their LLC. They own 100% of their LLC. We don't do this 50% shit to dad or mom, any of that kind of stuff. So there are situations when we don't like to announce how much money we do for these deals. So a lot of these deals that we've done are a lot bigger than $550,000, but we protect our client because you want to know what happens with these memorabilia deals and shit. They go back to where they're from, whether it be suburbia, the hood, wherever. And they're like, hey, yo, so-and-so, I saw you just got this check, or I'm getting calls. I got a call from a father that was, not a part of this person's life. Like, hey man, how much did my son make on this? How much? So we can be that buffer for our client. But there are some parents that are amazing, and they want to, they want to know more. Rocket Hickman right now, his mom and dad we speak to a lot. He's an amazing defender. I think got another interception, maybe game ago, but he wants to get into real estate. So we've been, getting parents. We're looking at their first purchase. We just did Travion Henderson and G. Scott's first real estate buy and flip successfully. But yeah, when it comes to parents, man, some are definitely they all think, they all believe their kid's the only kid on the field or in the court that matters, and we get that, but we also have to be realists. You know what I'm saying?
Do you ever have to push back and say, like, I work for your I'm working with your son or daughter, not you?
Yeah, I just say it in a little different way. But
maybe we need some tips.
With my father, I mean, he was asking things that he should have never been asking, and it's just, I apologize. I don't work for you. I work for your son. And I'd love to keep it open communication, just not under this context. Period.
Well, and a lot of times it's interesting too, because it's, we talk about collegiate age, kids, young adults, whatever you want to say. This age, this time in life is often that kind of transition where maybe you're also figuring out how to navigate some difficult conversations yourself as you're coming out of high school into pro, kind of becoming your own. And, when that comes along with it, it's difficult maybe to be the one who is saying, Mom, stop, Dad, stop. All right, Uncle, like, you're done. And, they're not minors anymore. Right. So there is this interesting dynamic where maybe it's a growth, emotional development, maturity of not knowing how to have that conversation sometimes and wanting that buffer a little bit without saying it explicitly.
Yeah. And, look, their brains are still very malleable, right? You're coming out of high school, and that's an amazing thing, because if we can instill financial literacy, create generational wealth, and kind of like that no bullshit mentality, like know your finances and respect your finances, that's amazing. And, to speak, Stephen, what you said, I mean, we got a lot of guys, Trey and them, like, literally were like, this is the most, I could never learn this in the classroom. And that was exactly where I was. Like, I had to go do it. Right. But yeah, it's, there's a lot of learning on, both ends, I suppose, but I'm just glad we're here to do it correctly.
100%. Yeah. And that's the other thing is, like, you see this from representation at the professional level as well. There's a lot of things that go into it beyond just like endorsements and marketing deals and contract negotiation. It's really advocacy, right? Yeah. And they don't separate their job or, the work that they put in on the field, in the gym or whatever from who they are as a person. Those things are intertwined. And so if you're going to come alongside them and be a part of this whole journey, it also doesn't stop at the marketing, the contract, the salary, the endorsements. It's everything along that process of growing and learning, how to navigate to the next level, meaning from high school to college, and then hopefully navigate from the next level of college to pros.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I think the other thing, like, that I truly love is just watching the growth. I mean, you take Travion, when we signed Travion, it was before he had his breakout last year. And, I remember going to a steak dinner, and he had never been to a nice steak dinner, right? So he didn't know how to order his steak, right? He didn't know how, just teaching them the menu and just having them understand that. And he had a big Arby's deal come through, and he didn't want to do any video. He wasn't comfortable speaking. He's rather quiet, but literally from last year to now, he's doing commercials. He's speaking. He's literally sitting at these business dinners and holding conversations and creating conversation. You know what I'm saying? That's what fucking fuels. You know what I mean? And same with our other, our other athletes. But that's what's great, right?
That's cool.
A lot of people can take it, but
yeah, it's that holistic development, which is awesome. So me neither. How do I order a steak, Zach? What's the order?
Oh, well, I ask him, like,
and where
pictures. So, you know what I mean? Hey, is it too bloody? So, I mean, you need medium rare, kind of learn through. We ordered a couple different ones so he could taste it, but then he knew, right? And then, we were ordering French fries, and he was using his freaking butter knife instead of
no ketchup. Ketchup.
Like, it was
so Zach, how do you take NIL management? That's obviously so. I bought NIL.store. I bought NIL.shop. I have a bunch of NIL domain names. Adam will tell you, I'll text him, be like, GoDaddy just takes all my money. Yeah. How do you take NIL management? Now you've got, Ohio State, you're there. You know the community, you know the business, you know the athletes, you know the school, you know the collective. Is your goal to take this to other campuses? What's next?
So, some things I can talk about, some things I can't, but we have been approached multiple times either for, buyouts and or to create franchises and pop them up into other major universities. That's definitely on the radar. We will be announcing a very big e-games partnership with the top company in esports on both ends, not only the gaming, but also that, which is I'm really freaking excited. And you're about to see that for the Michigan OSU. Maybe very, very soon. So that's that. We also have been taking kind of these camps, partnering with Nike and that kind of stuff. We've been growing those. That's been a great generator for them. But yeah, when it comes to NIL management, we have like 2 roads to take, and one road is looking very, very good. And like I've said to you guys, like I'm not a greedy person, right? Like I don't count the dollars and cents. So sometimes if you want to do too much, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So yeah, when it comes to that, I think we just are going to keep spider webbing and then hopefully close this really cool deal.
There aren't many bigger places than Ohio State anyway.
Yeah. It's a good starting point. This is cool. This is super cool to watch. I think what's most interesting, Zach, is it's so organic. Like it doesn't feel forced. It feels very natural. Yeah. Which is, just to your credit, pretty sweet. Can you talk about that esports thing at all? Or is this
Yeah, I can't, because we're going to have a whole press release rollout and all that. And plus, like, I don't want to.
You don't want to spoil it here.
Yeah, but it's going to be really freaking sweet. And it's with one of the biggest e-gamers too.
When does Michigan play OSU? When does Michigan play Ohio?
Last game?
I believe it's the 26th, isn't it? November 26th, I believe, is that Saturday. Yeah, we look forward to it every year.
Well, if you go to goblue.com, Mark did us a favor over the weekend. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it. I love it. Dude, hey, listen how crazy this is. When we created Life Support and we were on board, like getting the investment, Mark Cuban, we got the link and hit me back on my email. And I'm sitting here like, holy shit. And this was when he was in Vegas and we were going to do the whole pitch. And then he had his planes, whatever, couldn't land in Vegas and we never got to link up. But what a freaking badass.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun to work with. That's funny.
That's great.
You get 100. He comes talking about being genuine and always true to yourself. You get 100% of Mark every time. That's for sure.
Dude, and that's how it should be, man. And I think when people are passionate, right, it comes off as very organic and authentic. Because, like, dude, I wake up every day and I love this shit. I'm like, how can we make a positive impact? And shake and bake, baby. Like, this is what I do. You know what I mean? It's just now I've taken all this weird shit from 36 years and it's all came to one place that I can put all those tools to work.
It's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Zach, how big's your team? What does it look like? Is it just you? Do you have a whole squad?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I think, as you guys know, the information that we're dealing with is kind of very sensitive, right? So it's hard to bring people in because, dude, Ohio State, like, I don't know if you've ever been to a game here, like a big game, like, dude, it's crazy. Like, this is what we eat, breathe, and sleep. So a lot of trying to get information and this, that, and the other. So it's myself, it's Ed Brown, and then Jacob Lipperman. He's our tech guy, and he does like all the website, all that kind of back end stuff. But now we're getting to the point where we have to we have to hire once, hopefully, some things come together. But yeah, we got to keep it small, but it's just getting a little wild.
Yeah. Tight quality circle.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, Zach, we have a question we always like to ask our guests, and I feel like you're going to have a great answer. What's the dream slam dunk restaurant NIL deal for Zach Beebe? Like, what's the contract you're signing on the spot
for you?
A restaurant you can sell better than anything.
A restaurant I can sell better than anything. Man, I don't know, because we did 2 deals with 2 of them already, but. man, I don't know, because Chipotle and McDonald's, that was pretty sick. But
those are good choices. What's the Chipotle order?
The Chipotle order, shit, I'm ordering. I don't know. I like
Double chicken.
Dude, I like the bowl. I like double steak. I like to put the tortilla under the bowl. You know what I mean? So if I get lazy,
extra rice, double steak, all the sausage, cheese. Yeah,
that's literally holy shit. We're the same.
All right, we've gotten. Let's see. We got a couple. We got some Benihanas. We got a couple. We have like 2 people that gave us Benihanas, right?
Yeah, we had Benihana back-to-back weeks, which was incredible. Benihana, still, we're waiting on your call. Had some local taco shops.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said
Portillo's.
Nutella.
Nutella.
Straight up Nutella.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it for you? Like,
what's it for you, Sean?
I'm from Bel Air, Maryland. There's a wing shop in Bel Air called CR Wings. I can name every flavor on that menu. It's the best. So that's what I would do.
That's awesome.
I'm still undecided.
Yeah.
Still figuring it out.
As a Chicago kid, I went the low-hanging fruit with Portillo's. I mean, you can't go wrong. You know, I was trying to convince my wife to have Portillo's cater our wedding, and that didn't fly over so hot. So,
well, Zach, you didn't give us a restaurant, but how about give us the spot to get a steak in Columbus? Where should we go?
Man, straight up, Jeff Ruby's. It's crazy. It'll melt in your mouth. Also, he's a badass. Joe Burrow, he's got his own steak there. Joe actually just got a spot back here. Little people do they know he lives right, I believe, on the same floor as Evan Turner. Evan's a dear friend of mine right here, which is cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think restaurant, honestly, Tony's Italian. He's just an OG. He's been in the game for 40 years. It's like you go into the private room and it's just what it is. You know?
Love it. Keeping it real.
Sweet.
Great. Zach, man, this was a great conversation. Fascinating, incredible to learn about you and just your journey. Appreciate you opening up, sharing a little bit about, your life and skills. And most of all, love hearing how passionate and excited you are about bringing high value to the NIL space and athletes. So this has been another episode of the NIL Show. I am Adam Cook here with Sean Ellenby, Stephen Farrig signing off. We will see you all next time.